Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is Transfers Live, which means that's Joe Smith. And as always, we're in San Diego.
As always.
As always.
We're always here.
We're always... San Diego again. I know, it's just boring, isn't it? I'm sorry, don't worry. One day we'll visit Manchester. There's loads of stories to get through, so we'll crack on. We're going to be talking about Leny Yoro. The injury curse, Joseph.
I can't believe it.
Again. We'll get into that. Plus, we've got some incomings. Plus, we've got some outgoings, including one of the coaching staff. It looks like there's going to be no good cops left at Manchester United. So we'll get into all that. But before we do, make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. Joseph.
Yep.
I remember, right? I don't know how old you would have been in around 2001.
I would have been 8.
Right? 2001, when you were 8, the term metatarsal wasn't a thing.
Didn't exist.
Right? Didn't exist. Doctors hadn't heard of it.
Nope.
I'd never heard of it. You'd never heard of it. Yeah, despite being a well-read 8-year-old. However, since then, it's become part of the daily lexicon because Beckham had it, Rooney had it, and to that list, it looks like you can add Leny Yoro because our mate, Chris Wheeler, from the Daily Mail has tweeted, breaking... pardon the pun, fears Leny Yoro has broken metatarsal and could be out for up to 2 months. I mean, I'm not going to swear because it's a family show, but if I were to swear, it would rhyme with clucking bell.
I can't believe it. Also, add Lisandro Martinez to that list as well, who got the same injury last season. It's shocking. It's terrible, and it's one of those that it seems like it's a pretty full recovery kind of injury. Usually, I don't think Rooney it never recurred with injury, or Beckham, as far as I'm aware. I know
think Rooney did have it twice, didn't he?
But they were separate things.
Separate. Sorry. Yeah, you're right.
But I don't think it's one where it's like, oh, that same one's gone again. Except, although I say that, Lisandro Martinez, the surgery wasn't quite right, was it? He had to have another surgery in it. So maybe I mean, you know, it can go either way. But what we do know is a couple of months is a long time. And it's between now and October, that's where you set your stall out for the season. That's where the sort of bulk of that first part of the season is made, isn't it? Those first 15, 20 games in all competitions. That's a big time, that. And that worries me, you know, obviously in terms of results and stuff, but just in terms of his season as a Man United player. He's a young player. He needed this to get in. It just basically reiterates that United are desperate for another centre-back, aren't we? Because it looks like Lindelof might go, which I think we'll move on to in a little bit. Obviously, Varane's already left. Now the new guy who's come in is out for 2 months. Obviously, feared to be out for 2 months, as it looks like a metatarsal. It's just the opposite to what United needed, and I just, you know, especially after we saw what happened to Martinez last season and how little games of football he played because of the same injury, it does worry you, doesn't it? And it's just annoying that it's happened again on pre-season, like with Kobe Mainoo last year, where he was out until November. A new guy this season is out until October, so it's a shame, and I don't want to point fingers at the SoFi pitch and all that, but the pitch, as we were looking at it, did look a little bit patchwork, didn't it? Yeah. And I don't know if that's to blame, probably not, but it's just a shame that a young lad who's fresh in, just coming to the team, is now out for 2 months. It's the exact opposite to what we wanted from him, isn't it?
It is, and there's so many reasons why this is frustrating. One, obviously, it's a new player. He's just got through the door. He's barely kicked the ball. I think he's played, 50 minutes for Manchester United, if that, and he gets an injury. Two, he's a youngster. You never like to see any player getting injured, but especially 18-year-olds, still slightly in the formative years. Picking up injuries can just sort of, not derail the career, but it can stall it somewhat when they're trying to get going and they're just sort of becoming maybe a regular at Manchester United. Another reason it's frustrating as well is I kind of feel like Eric Ten Hag got a pass last season with Ineos because of the injuries. I think Ineos went, look, wasn't great, 8th isn't good enough, etc., but the injuries were a factor. That's not your fault. And you missed so many key players for so long. We'll let you off, and we'll give you that. You know, we'll let the year extension, if you can call it that, kick in, and you know you've got a bit of leeway there. I don't think they'll do that again. I don't think they'll go. If United are struggling and Eric Ten Hag goes, well, I've got injuries, I don't think they're just go, yeah, okay, because they're going to think, well, you can't keep using that.
Yeah,
excuse.
what we're going to do is just not be good for 10 years because of injuries.
You've got to sort of roll with those punches. So there's a multitude of reasons why it's annoying. Also, as well, I wanted Leny Yoro, sorry to waffle on, but to develop a relationship with the rest of his defence, with his goalkeeper. And he's not done that yet, has he? No. It'd be good to see him and Andre Onana playing together. It'd be good to see him and Lisandro Martinez playing together. None of that is happening, so it's really frustrating. I love this in the chat as well before I come back to you. Christian Ivanov says Yoro is finished.
Finished.
There
he's
you go.
Done. He's done in these streets.
We'll always have Rangers.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing as well to add to the list of reasons why this isn't good, and I will try and add one that, I mean, there's no reason why it's good, but I'll try and look on the bright side in a minute. Another reason why this is so frustrating is because we think of like people talk about pre-season and like getting to know the tactics of the manager and getting your fitness and all that. How long's he had at United? A week?
Yeah.
He's been a Man United player for 1 week pretty much before he got injured. He played the Rangers game his second day as a United player, played this game a week or so into his career. He hasn't learned the tactics. I know he can watch PowerPoints and all that, but it's not the same as doing it in training. He hasn't learned the tactics. He hasn't got the fitness that you associate with a full pre-season. He's going to miss basically 2 weeks of pre-season plus all the training sessions that come with that. That's a big problem as well. Like now you've got to go back in and know the style of it. Like you said, a manager who is absolutely 100% playing for his United career this season.
Yeah,
if it starts badly, he won't be here by the end of the season. We can all see that. And now you've got one of your sort of star signings, probably, let's be honest, the most expensive player we're going to sign this summer, I would assume, is going to miss a lot of those, like you said, formative moments of his United career. So there's a lot of bad in this. The one, maybe not upside, but if I'm looking on the bright side, will this force United into signing a De Ligt or a Branthwaite or whoever, maybe with a bit more urgency? Maybe they go, we need someone now to come in and start the season at right centre-back. We were going to wait on De Ligt, maybe see what we could do with Branthwaite, we'll see if Everton get their act together after the whole, takeover bid collapsed. But maybe now we go, we need someone in before the City game. We need someone for the Charity Shield, let alone, start the season, end of August.
I hear you. I'm probably going to, this is where I lose the room, as they say.
Yeah.
I was chatting to McCullough about this before, and he's not exactly his biggest fan. I ain't got any qualms with someone like Harry Maguire coming in.
Yeah.
I haven't for a few months. I genuinely haven't. I know people go, he's not good enough, Jay. Harry Maguire. I think you can rely on him. I do. I think there's better defenders out there, and I think long term, Leny Yoro is a much better defender and a much better option, and I'm glad we've got him, and I would like to see us sign another one, but I feel like if the season started with Sandro Martinez and Harry Maguire, I'd be okay with that personally, or even a Johnny Evans coming in now and again for some of these, I don't know when the Europa League starts, but if you needed to rely on him, I think that's not a bad option as well. So I don't think it's annoying, and all the reasons I've listed and why it's frustrating, but I think there is options there. However, hopefully Manchester United can sort of get in another defender, because we're linked with one anyway, weren't we? So there's no reason now why we've lost the defenders to think, oh, well, let's not get a defender when we're all going to do it. It is just annoying the fact that we had so many injuries last season. We were so threadbare in defence to the point where you had the likes of Casemiro playing at centre-back and the absolute merry-go-round that was going on at the full-back position. And we're now going to start the season with fewer defenders available than we had last season, because Rafael Varane's gone out. The kid that's replaced him is now injured. We've sold Willy Camboala. It's just a shambles. Deadman says, hopefully not just kids playing today. Yeah, Manchester United playing later on. We're going to be at the Snapdragon for that one. We're going to move on anyway. Make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. It is frustrating with Leny Yoro. As and when we get updates, we're hoping to speak to Chris Wheeler as well on this trip. We'll try and get hold of him and see, how accurate that report is. But when we saw Leny Yoro on crutches wearing a boot, he's not,
2 days after the game as well.
Yeah, he's not, sweets his wrist, does he? It's obviously something very serious.
It's not good, is it?
It's not a tummy ache.
No. If you can't put any weight on your foot 2 days after you've done the injury, you're not going to be back in a week.
No, and you don't do that as a precaution and just against any injury. That's not a thing.
No.
So it is annoying. It's kind of funny as well, though, that I think, was it the Sun, # don't buy the Sun, who went earlier on this morning, he's out for 3 weeks, and then about 4 hours later, or not even that, it's well, he's out for 2 months, essentially.
It must have just been a guess, that one. Pick a number.
Are you inferring that the Sun newspaper just guesses things and makes up stories? Because if you are, I think you're right. Let's talk about this quickly, so we'll get your take on it. Chido, Obi Martin.
Yeah.
I had this in my news this morning. Obviously, it's a done deal. We had a here we go from Fabrizio Romano, the 16-year-old Arsenal striker, moving to Old Trafford. Absolute goal-scoring machine. 10 goals against the Scousers, which mean I automatically love him.
That's not even possible, is it? 10 goals in a game. What is that?
That's match fixing, isn't it?
That's obscene.
That's like your mates in the opposition. You've had a word with him and said, look, just let's score loads of goals.
What were they not even trying or something? How do you score? I know he's a young lad, but it's not like under 8s. He's under 16s.
Yeah.
Like, these are people who, some of these will be playing for Liverpool and Man United in the next 18 months.
Yeah.
And he's scoring 10 goals by himself. In fact, that's stupid, isn't it? It's made me like him less. It's unbelievable. It can't be possible what I'm hearing.
10 goals, that's insane. It's almost too many goals.
It is almost too many goals. At
Hey.
least score 6, but 10, it's like they were letting you score some of them. I can't believe they were trying for all 10 of them.
It's because of that chant. Me and you were talking about how that chant, we often score 6, but we seldom score 10. We've kind of ruined that chant because since Fergie retired, we barely scored. I think we scored 6 about twice. And we don't score 10. We did score 9.
Well, that's why we've got him in.
Yeah,
so we can start scoring 10 again.
We often score 6, but we seldom score 10. Well, we do sometimes. It's already boiling a lot of urine from the Arsenal contingent, who have gone from everything from saying he's rubbish and always has been to he's the greediest footballer in the world to we didn't like him anyway. Proper jilted lover tackle.
Good stuff.
Depending on who you follow on from Arsenal Twitter or Arsenal social media accounts, he's on about £1 million a day, or he was the worst footballer you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's like, it's that kind of thing where they've just had a complete meltdown, which is glorious to see. There's nothing better. I'm looking forward to seeing him. But as I said in my news this morning, we have to be patient. One person I'm not going to be patient with is Manuel Ugarte. I want to see this kid arrive. I want to see someone arrive. Fabrizio Romano spoke about it. He said João Neves to PSG. He said to be a done deal.
Yeah. That was here we go on that as well.
Yeah, and also that was Florian Plettenberg said it as well. So that's 2 heavy hitters, 2 very reliable journalists. We've had them both on the channel. We have them on for a reason because they're good at the jobs. And then Ugarte, yes, United. That was almost 2 weeks ago. And waiting for United to reach an agreement with PSG. It feels like the wheels are turning slowly.
Yeah, they've bought in his replacement, haven't they? So at some point they want to get rid of Ugarte. And I think that it's weird to me that United have only really been linked with one central midfielder. Because in every other position, especially that centre-back area, there's been 3-4 names mentioned. I know it's been a much narrower pool compared to the usual, what is it, every year you see this, United have been linked with 157 players in the newspapers this summer. We're not going to see that this year, but there have been 3, 4 or 5 centre-back options that were mentioned. There was a couple up front as well. It's basically been just Ugarte midfield, and yet it doesn't seem to have actually advanced that much in the last 2 weeks. I don't know whether that's because we're sort of now focused on this right-back situation, or because the centre-back transfers have been slightly more difficult to get over the line than we thought they would. But we haven't really seen much alternative to Ugarte in that area, which either means that it's not as advanced as we like to think it is, or we think we'll get him.
Yeah.
I think those are the 2 options to me. Obviously, get your opinions in the comments. But I think we must be confident of being able to get him, because otherwise we'd have had 3, 4, 5 different people that we're chatting to going for. I think once the money's there, or once we find a way to not have to pay for him this summer, there was talks of an obligation to buy, wasn't there, next year? Once that's sorted, I think this deal can happen. PSG clearly don't want him. They've already brought in someone to sort of replace him, as it were. We need a player like that. His ball-winning ability is exceptional. And next to Kobbie Mainoo, I think that's absolutely perfect. And he's a bit shorter and a bit more sort of mobile and nimble as well than some of the options we've had in there in recent years. I think that he'll be a very good player for United if we can get him in for a decent fee. The rumours that PSG wants 70 million when they paid 60 for him a year ago, and it's not really worked out. How are you making profit on him? That might be a stumbling block.
They can just shut up.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to happen.
No.
You think Everton.
Yeah, selling 11-year-olds for 40 million quid to Newcastle and Aston Villa and that. But yeah, I think if they paid 60, it's been a decent season. I think he played 30 times for me. It wasn't like an absolute disaster. But you're looking at 50-ish, aren't you?
There's talk of maybe a loan deal. We like that, didn't we? Did it with Amrabat. We actually love a loan deal at United. When I was growing up, but United didn't do any loan deals. I think we did about 2 in about 20 years. Yeah. Was it Henrik Larsson and William Prunier or something? And then we do like at least 2 a season now. It's like we love a loan deal. So, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. It does feel like there's a little bit of movement. Also on midfielders, Adrien Rabiot.
Well, he's the other one now.
Yeah, we have been linked with him. I think the Mirror are running with this as well. He's a free agent. He's not staying at Juve. Talk of him coming to Manchester United, apparently. And if he does come to United, he's already endeared himself to me. He's turned down the Scousers, said no to Liverpool. Rabiot's a funny one because I think Adrien Rabiot is that type of player where no one's mad keen on him, but if you got him, you'd be pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's not a player you go, we need to get Adrien Rabiot. But when you watch him, he's actually a decent player. It's a bit like Sabitzer in the sense, not the same style, but not like, oh, we need to get Marcel Sabitzer, but I know injuries did for him at United. But when you watched him, he's a good player. And I think Rabiot's a good player. And I think if he came to Old Trafford, everyone would be relatively happy with him. It's just, there is a little bit of baggage there when there's question marks surrounding his, I've got to say his attitude. I hate using the word attitude. I keep using it, but sometimes it's appropriate. A few question marks around his attitude, and is he a bit of a trouble causer?
Yeah, and I feel as though we've not seen as much of that side of him the last couple of years. But that was always a thing with him, wasn't it? Early 20s, he's a bit of a knob, and his mum sticks her nose in too much.
Is there not a bit of sexism there?
But that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, and that was the sort of the common phrase that you'd hear around him. But I think, like you said there, it's absolutely fine, and we see it all the time. The male parts of people's family being represented for him, dads and brothers are constantly agents and managers. Yeah. We see that constantly, and yet when it's his mum, all of a sudden, oh, she wants all this money for him and she's not very good at this and she's having to go at that person. But when it's other agents doing it, no one really goes, oh, look at this, and it's stupid that he's managed by his dad, because that happens all the time.
It does, and like, I'm sure, his mum's as qualified as someone's dad would be if they were being their agent. It fits that narrative, doesn't it, of like, oh, she's being a bit of a fussy woman.
Yeah, exactly.
Who should be, out shopping.
Bossy and all that.
Yeah, instead of sticking her nose in the football.
And I think,
which I do find as a hint of sexism there, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah, and a couple of times there's been comments from her that have been maybe a bit childish about Mbappe, and we saw potentially her arguing in the stands and stuff. But again, that's
a good point, that actually, because the French squad and what goes on there with the players, with their mums, I can't believe I'm saying this sentence, with witch doctors who somehow get dragged into it with all sorts, is completely insane.
It is.
That is a squad, and historically has been a squad and a team that have had an absolute insane time at tournaments where things you cannot imagine happen, where coaches get the plane home early and then come back, captains take over the picking the team, mums fight in the stands, people are accused of hiring witch doctors. It's just absolutely mental.
It is mental.
And if he's like a part of that, he's gonna get sort of questioned, but we'll see what happens. Neo Wolf says, truly enjoy the depth of conversation whenever you two are on. No bluster. Also, the interaction with you two in New Jersey last year was telling. Thank you for the effort in the minute. Interaction with the fans. Also, someone asked if we're going to be at the event at the Snapdragon. We are. The fan event. I think it's a bit of a tailgate. West Brown's going to be there. So if you are in San Diego, you go to the game, come and see us. We're all going to be there. Me, Joe, Stephen Howson, and Adam McCullough, and obviously talking to the legend that is Wes Brown. Let's talk about Steve McClaren.
Yeah.
Because that's the breaking news.
Yeah.
That's just been announced that he's going to be joining Jamaica as a coach. Let me just, sorry, Joseph, I did have it, but I've lost it. I'm going to bring up the press release here. It says, the Jamaica Football Federation has appointed Steve McClaren as the head coach of the senior men's national team with a 2-year contract aimed at guiding the Reggae boys towards the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And then there's a load of quotes saying, how buzzing they are, basically, that he's going to be joining them. Are you surprised by that?
No, and it'd be nice to see Steve McClaren back in head coaching. I think he's a decent coach, isn't he? Yeah, and he's won Eredivisie, and I know he's had failures, but a lot of older coaches have had, and I think it'll be a decent appointment for them. The only thing for me is, what are we losing at United? Because as far as Jamaica are concerned, I don't mind them doing well. I've got nothing against them, but it's Man United that I care about in all this. And is he someone that we can afford to lose? Because obviously I don't know every single person who's in the under Ten Hag exactly, but haven't we lost all of the major coaches that were with Ten Hag at the start of last season?
Mitchell van der Gaag has gone, hasn't he?
He's gone. Who's the guy who...
Steve McClaren's
gone.
I think there's one or two others whose names escape me have gone.
Yeah.
The only slight concern about this is the idea that you're losing one of the good cops. Because we had this sort of narrative, didn't we, or these stories that there was... some of the players felt like it was like bad cop, when you had... Erik ten Hag and Mitchell van der Gaag. Then Leny Yoro comes in, and there's clips of him basically causing some of his team to have a mental breakdown when he screams at them for getting sent off or whatever it was. Ruud van Nistelrooy's come in, and I think that's the interesting one, because Ruud is he's got a bit of an edge to it, shall we say. I had it as a player, and I think it's there as a coach. He's a friendly guy. You were shaking hands with him the other day. I missed out, typical. But he's someone who doesn't look like he suffers fools gladly and will be able to tell you when you're not performing. I just wonder, right, whether Ruud van Nistelrooy could become the good cop, could become the guy that if you've got an issue, if things aren't going well, he'll put his arm around you, or you can turn to him and go, look, I'm just not feeling it or whatever, and can't put my finger on it. He could be like the sort of the shoulder to cry on type figure that you probably need in a dressing room. You need a bit of yin and yang. He could be that guy. And also, if I can go full conspiracy theory.
Go on.
I'm allowed?
I'd love you to.
There's these sort of rumours or people suggesting that maybe one day Ruud takes over from Erik ten Hag.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's in 6 months when the wheels have come off and the club just go, Ruud van Nistelrooy's there, the fans will be on board because they love him. he's got a good pedigree in coaching, and he's a legend here, and he knows this team. Just make him manager. Job's good at. Or, and I hope this is the case, in like 5 or 6 years, maybe Eric Ten Hag goes, right, I've done 8 years at United. I'm going to move on. I'm 60 years old. I'm going to move on. I'm going to go to Real Madrid. I'm going to go manage the Dutch national side. And Ruud van Nistelrooy is just there, and you can continue what is going on. The point I'm getting to is, if Ruud van Nistelrooy has got a good relationship with the players in terms of he's that good cop, that is going to be an easier pill to swallow for the club, for him. The players are probably like, yeah, great news.
This works.
Yeah. So I think if there is a view to one day Ruud van Nistelrooy becoming manager, maybe he feels that role in the dressing room of being the good cop.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just a theory.
I like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that would make sense with some of the other players clearing out, obviously, and the other coaches, clearing out, bringing in different people as well.
Sorry, just on that front.
Yeah.
I should have known these names, but I've appreciated them sending them to me. Benny McCarthy.
Benny McCarthy's gone,
yeah. Obviously, he was given credit when for helping Marcus Rashford, and then not given any criticism when Marcus Rashford's goals dried up. Richard Hartis and Mitchell van der Gaag, who you mentioned as well.
And Eric Ramsey left as well, didn't he?
Eric Ramsey, yeah. So it's
a lot of clear, isn't it? And now, obviously, Steve McLaren's going to West Indies.
Jamaica.
No, he went on his own accord. Thank you very much.
Nice. Hey, that's the
level
of humour
See you later.
you get here at Stretford.
Jamaica.
Paddock.
No, she went on her own accord. That's the great.
How have you not got kids? Because that is such a dad joke.
Actually.
Do you know what I mean? These jokes are wasted on someone who's not a dad. Oh, well, it happens to the best of us. Just on De Ligt, because we touched on it earlier. Florian Plettenberg says De Ligt has not travelled with Bayern Munich squad on their pre-season tour of South Korea. Bayern remain in contact with United for an agreement for a deal. Also, as well, he mentioned the Nusa Mazraoui transfer as well. It looks like United potentially could do both those deals, where you could bring in both De Ligt and Mazraoui. A lot of that, though, is dependent on whether Aaron Wan-Bissaka moves, because he's been linked with West Ham. Also, as well, Scott McTominay, I think this comes from TalkSport, so you might want to put a bit of pinch of salt with this one, has been linked with a move to Fulham for 30 million quid. So if you can move Wan-Bissaka and McTominay out the door for, say, 45 million quid, maybe then you can start talking about getting a couple of tiddlers from Bayern Munich.
Yeah, there's also a report one there about McTominay being linked with Fenerbahce as well, I believe.
I don't see that happening.
But I was just going to say, I can't imagine him playing it at Fenerbahce particularly. I think that's just the Jose link to me. That feels like the only reason why that's being rumoured. I think I can much more imagine Scott McTominay playing for Fulham than I can for Fenerbahce.
I feel like, no disrespect to the Turkish league and Fenerbahce or Jose Mourinho for that matter, but it's not a league that I think if you're in the prime of your career, which Scott McTominay is, your stock has probably never been higher. You've just banged in a load of goals for Manchester United and been one of our better players in the season.
Massive for Scotland last season.
Massive for Scotland. Putting a very, very underrated performance in the FA Cup final against Manchester City. Do you go to Fenerbahce? Is that the career move for you? No. Or do you go to Fulham, who under Marco Silva have become a pretty stable Premier League team? And we have seen it. I was saying this on Macca's channel earlier, where Andreas Pereira went from United to Fulham not under a cloud, but no one really rated Pereira that highly by the time he left Old Trafford, and he did very well there, especially in his first season. I think McTominay could go there and do a good job, and I think Fulham, obviously they lost Paulinho, they need to strengthen, don't they? I know he's a different type of player from Paulinho, so that one makes a lot of sense to me. I think some of it depends on just how keen United are or willing they are to let Scott McTominay go, because obviously did a good job for Eric Ten Hag last season, and Eric Ten Hag might look at it and go, do I want to let him go? And
it's getting pretty thin in midfield. Yeah. Like, let's say that we think Casemiro either will or needs to leave. So let's say he goes, or it certainly isn't playing the way he had been. Eriksen, there's rumours about him leaving, and he's 31, 32 now, and unable to play, unable to play any more than 45, 50 minutes in a game, really, at the top level. So let's say they go, then you look at the midfield, who's even left? Mainu, Fernandes, Mount. Is that it? And then McTominay. But so we can't. I don't think we can let McTominay, Eriksen, and Casemiro go, and we have to get Casemiro out because of his wages. So if you let him and McTominay go, then you've only got Eriksen in there. So let's say Ugarte comes in and gets injured. Who have you got in there then? Mount and Mainu and Mount as your two defensive midfielders?
Yeah.
We're a bit thin there. I think that we'd be quite reluctant to get rid of McTominay. The problem is you can get good money from him and it's all profit. We're not making profit on Eriksen. We're not making profit on Casemiro. We're not making profit on anyone else that might want to leave. McTominay's 30 million quid's worth of profit, and I think they're really torn about, can we risk this? Because if the replacement gets injured, we're really going to struggle defensively.
Yeah, it feels very much like the 80s, this, when under Ron Atkinson, there was like a bit of a merry-go-round of players, because we had to sell to buy a lot.
Yeah.
And you'd see players like Remy Moses, Brian Robson coming in, Ray Wilkins going out, Joe Jonah going out, whatever. There was always like this constant sort of wheeler dealer going on, because you had a little bit of money, obviously, because you're Manchester United, but it wasn't just like you could go out and buy anyone you wanted. You had to do a little bit more sort of management in terms of transfers. And it does feel like we're in that stage now, don't we? Where, aren't we? We haven't really been like that in the past, have we?
No.
Because we don't get any money for players. We just buy who we want almost. Now it feels like we're having to sort of sell to buy. So be interesting to see who makes a cut and who doesn't. But Scott McTominay is definitely one that's been linked with a move away. And if we hear anything, as always, we will keep you posted. We're going to be at that event at the Snapdragon, like I mentioned earlier. Make sure as well you are checking out all the other videos on the channel. We're going to give you constant updates. Plus, there's a members vlog for our members, extra content for the members as well. So if you can do, join the members section. Go and check out Joel Smith on Sloppy Joel's very funny podcast. You know where to find me as well. That's been Joyce. Not Joy.
Joyce.
That's not your name. That's been Joel Smith. I'm Jay Motti. This has been Transfers Live. It's the heat. Thanks for watching.